My wife handed me this broken mirror and said, "Can you fix this?" If I'm fixing this, it's gonna be fancy. So I roughen up the mirror housing, tape off the rotating pegs, prime it, and spray it gold. Once golden, I hot glue the mirrors back into their housings, then super glue the two halves together. I cut the holders off the broken arms, sand and file them smooth, then measure and cut 2 pieces of walnut. I drill out 2 oversized holes that the housings fit in. In the other piece, I cut it in half, which turned out to be a pain with a handsaw, but the piece was so small I didn't want to risk doing it on the table saw to act as a backing plate. I measure and cut 2 pieces of walnut for the base. In my last video, I was told I shouldn't just glue the edges together with a weight in the middle. You should clamp a 2x4 across the middle so it spreads out the clamping forces more evenly. With that drying, I mark and cut out the new arms, finalizing the shape with a sander. I unclamp the base, check the glue, and decide I need to make the arms thicker, so I made 2 more. I glue the 2 arms together. Apparently old habits die hard. I refine the shape of my base with my sander. Using a router, I cut in a roundover with the ledge. Unfortunately, I got a little wood chip on one of the corners. I hope my wife doesn't notice. Then I cut a little slot in the front. Now it's time to make the mirror holders. I tape over the front, press the plastic against the tape, then fill in the space with gold color epoxy. I also filled in that little groove I cut in the front of the base. After it dried, I removed the tape. Or tried to. I ended up having to grind it away with a drum sander. My epoxy fill looked great though. I then used a few clamps to glue the back to the front. Once dried, I cut them into rough circles and tried to round them with my metal lathe and a file. When that didn't work, I just used my sander. I then rounded over the edges with the roundover bit. I sanded the gold inlay smooth on the base and then did some hand sanding to try to cover up the router chip. I now just had to attach the holders to the arms. I rounded over the top of the arm, then using wood glue, I attached them together. Then I realized I didn't have a good way to clamp these together. So I sat for a while, being the clamp, until I got bored and just used tape. I then glued and taped up the other side. Now I just need to cut the arms even and glue it all together. This is gonna take too long. I have to glue this thing together in one go, so I drill 2 holes through the base for 2 screws. Then I realize I can't attach one arm first, so off camera I add a little glue and then attach it with the screw. I put glue on the other arm, again off camera, then I put the mirror and other arm into place and attach it with the screw. And I went ahead and secured it with a clamp while it dried. The next day, I took the clamp off and tried out the mirror. It was a little stiffer than it was originally, but that's better than it flopping all around. Now it's time for the finish. Just kidding. I used this wipe-on polyurethane. Alright, there's the completed mirror. Let's just hope she doesn't notice his little chip.
I fixed your mirror.
Thanks.
Nice, she didn't notice the chip.